Herkese bağlantımızı sağladık ve etkinliğimiz Avrupa Birliği'nin elektrikli çarpma sistemi hakkındaki duruşunu ve öngörüleri paylaşması için Madrid Polytechnic Üniversitesi Rektör Yardımcısı Doktor Villarroel Robinson'un konuşmasıyla devam edecek. Bu kısım İngilizce olacak. O yüzden Türkçe dil desteği ihtiyacı olanlar öndeki kulaklığı kullanabilirler. Keyifli dinlemeler diliyorum.
Start when you're ready.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All good? All good.
Yes, you do. Okay, very good. So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to speak today. I think we are at an important point in the history of fish welfare in these years, in these months, since on the one hand we are expecting, at least in Europe, new legislation regarding fish welfare. On the production side, there is constant improvement in production systems, but there are new elements in recently on farms that have to do with slaughter. And there seems to be, again, at least in Europe, new awareness on behalf of consumers, although I've also seen this in North America, where there's more of an understanding what aquaculture and different fisheries, and from aquaculture, understanding how aquaculture works. And part of that has to do with how the fish are killed or slaughtered. So I thank you for inviting me for this talk, and I think it's very timely to have these kind of seminars, conferences on this topic. Just a bit of my background in fish welfare and electrical stunning. I started working on these topics in 2004. As you can see here, there was a European cost action on the welfare of fish in European aquaculture with funding of more than €1 million, with most of the countries in Europe working on fish welfare. So it's been a while, almost 20 years since we've been working on this topic. And more recently, we have had projects here in Spain on stunning and welfare. In our group, especially looks at product quality. So we're also looking at welfare, but product quality as well, which has kind of differentiated our group from some other ones in recent times. We have publications on this topic, for example, thermal shock versus electrical stunning in rainbow trout. We have mostly worked with freshwater, although we have also worked with sea bass and sea bream. And in 2022, we have published a chapter called from section, about half of the text is about electrical stunning as well. To the public to see what is happening in Spain as far as the industry. As some of you may know, APROMAR is the Association of Producers of Aquaculture in Spain. And in 2019, we developed with them a course on animal welfare, which many of the personnel that deal with fish in Spain now take. In 2022, we set up a seminar, much like we are seeing today, which I will talk about it in a few minutes. Seminar on electrical stunning, where we invited companies and the technical specifications and discuss the future of electrical. And at the beginning of this year, we published a guide, a PDF, which is available online if you search these keywords, fish welfare and Spanish aquaculture. It's a guide published by APROMAR with help from other groups, from the NGOs, and ourselves, the scientists, 3 or 4 scientists from different. And finally, on a European level, we have been contracted by the European Commission to assess the impact of a revision of legislation. In other words, more or less the legislation in farm animal welfare in general began in the beginning of the 2000s, so 2000, 2001. There was a European directive in 1998 which set things off, and it's been more than 20 years since then, and the European Commission has set a goal of reassessing the legislation for animal welfare across the board. And they have said, well, now would be a good time also, that we're working on pigs and cows, etc., to also include fish, since they were originally included in directive from 1998 on farm animal welfare, but there are no specifications for fish, or not many specific legislation that exists for fish. So, I was asked by the needs to consider for this talk the different standpoints of different actors in the realm with which we all work. You know? So we have regulatory bodies, for example, European Commission, the producers themselves, retailers and consumers. So I'd just like to maybe draw some ideas there to discuss and maybe address some questions that some of the public may have regarding this. You know? As far as the European regulatory bodies and some NGOs, I think there are two main aspects. So I'm going to be very kind of looking at the most important and priority ones. One is that at the current moment, the scientific evidence is not aligned with the legislation according to fish welfare or fish slaughter. So there have been a number of studies that point out that depending on how the fish are slaughtered, the welfare varies. You know? And that's tied with the second point where EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority, more than 10 years ago, concluded that only electrical stunning can induce an immediate loss of consciousness. So among the methods being used, electrical stunning is the one that is the most immediate to work. So this would be more of a standpoint of the regulatory bodies with regard to electrical stunning and fish welfare. For producers, there's a bit different. In Spain, and maybe it's a change that might be difficult, but really, when you get down to it, there are two larger problems which kind of have to be solved. And compared to other species, I'm thinking about mammals, in aquaculture we have many small animals which we have to slaughter in little time. And the diversity and the size of the farms for one producer or on a national level is very wide. And the production methods are quite variable, etc. So we have fish, little time to be able to slaughter them properly, and very diverse farms around. So it makes it a bit difficult to include electrical stunning, let's say. On the retailers, I keep this a bit short. Of course, retailers might have more of a complex standpoint on this, but in my experience, they're really looking for standardization. So they could be promoting this. This could be a good thing for them, in the sense that they need a standardized product. And for consumers, what do consumers want regarding fish welfare? We could be talking about this for hours or days, no? Because all of us are consumers, and we all have different standpoints. But one thing, and we have addressed this with different governments from our group here in Madrid, with different species. What are the consumers want? Which direction are we heading? And reading about this and thinking about it a bit more profoundly, what consumers want is trust. So they want to be able to trust the product and trust the system. We have done some surveys recently about fish welfare in Spain, and it turns out the consumers aren't too concerned about fish welfare. There's like a moderate to a lack of concern about how fish are killed. But this will probably grow, and as aquaculture grows, they'll become more concerned. And it seems like they want to be able to know that the system is transparent enough that they can find out, exactly what's going on. So again, this is very brief, but I wanted to attempt here to answer some of the questions that I think will be posed today in this conference. We had this seminar in Madrid more than a year ago in May 2022, very similar to what we do. And I must say, a lot of the companies were a bunch of aspects that were more of a problem, no? But after talking a while, we did realize that there could be some positive aspects of electrical stunning. For example, in the future, as things improve, that can help to make things more automated with a possible reduction of staff, especially the process of slaughter itself. It could end up being safer for the people and for the fish, and it can improve some product quality. And this is where our group comes in a bit, where we use the Kim method, we look at pH, rigor mortis, etc., and we find consistently higher levels of product quality in fish that have been stunned, let's say, electrically, than those, for example, that have been with thermal shock. So it takes maybe a while, but I think some effort should be made in finding some possibilities of positive aspects of electrical stunning and necessarily centering on the negative aspects. And this is my not my last slide, but my second to last slide, about some things to consider for equipment. So this is work that comes out of our assessment, for impact assessment for being commissioned, which has unfortunately not been published yet, so I'm not at liberty. Technical details of the systems for electrical stunning that could be clarified and don't always seem to be available. For example, what is the actual duration of the electrical current, where the gold standard would be 1 second. So we want to be able to do this as quickly as possible, and what the whole stunning process would last. What is the throughput speed? So in other words, how many fish are we getting through per minute, per hour? And possible backup options or equipment. So as far as I understand from speaking to people in the salmon industry, there could be in the future systems where we have electrical stunning, but we have a backup option which is actually permanently there, where we do percussion afterwards. So electrical stunning, percussion, and then bleeding. Or it could be a backup option where if there are fish that were electrically stunned but not properly, it didn't work, they will be deviated, sent to another section where they can be stunned properly. So this can be done, it's like an section, no? Seen, which will probably need to be improved for some of the systems we're seeing. For example, has the equipment been validated by a third party? Okay, so validation equipment and how it's used, so the protocol of how it's used. There are installed in different countries in Europe pre-approval systems for slaughter equipment for other animals. So we're talking about pigs, for example, where before entering into the commercial sector, there's a pre-approval system, not only of the technical specifications of the equipment to make sure it works, but of the use. In other words, how the user guide manual makes sure that it works properly, so we make sure that people using the equipment are using it properly. It isn't always clear, also from the technical equipment, the impact that the new process or stunning process will have on the company, on the personnel, and on the environment. A lot of us in Europe still speaking about the SDGs, no? And thinking about the environment. So what kind of effects will this have? Increase or decrease of the cost per kilo. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty about how this will affect the economics, but we can compare between different types of equipments. How many cents this is increasing or decreasing my cost per kilo. That data is not easy to find or verify. And what are the maintenance cost of rotation? It might be a bit early because a lot of this equipment is new, but how many times do the technicians of the company have to come in to check the equipment? And what is the rotation of the equipment? When do we have to get new equipment? So these are some of the things that we've run into looking at as far as an impact assessment. So I didn't want to go too, I think it's around 50 minutes already, so I will end with these concluding points. From our impression is, as a group here in Madrid, that electrical stunning is the future in Europe. There seems to be a debate now about wet stunning or dry stunning, which is the equipment, which ones they're going to adopt right now, which is the most developed. There's a debate which many of you may not be considering about adoption times. So if legislation comes into effect, let's say tomorrow, how much of a leeway do we provide to companies to adapt to that legislation? Obviously, it won't be immediate, but it could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So, is debated now in Europe. Turkish aquaculture, I'm here maybe exceeding myself. I haven't been to Turkey. I have heard a lot about Turkish aquaculture. I know it's very developed and very professional, but I think there are maybe things that we have been doing in Spain, which I haven't completely seen in Turkey. So you may correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that we haven't done yet in Spain, I'm not sure has been done in Turkey, is impact assessment. So where we assess if everybody in Turkey, all the companies adopt this electrical stunning, what will be the effects on the sector, on personnel, on the economy, etc. This might be important to carry out. More communication. This always helps in Spain as well. We have tried and sometimes failed, but we keep on working at it to have stakeholder meetings and including the best science. And training, and developing best practice guidelines and training courses for personnel, which has to do obviously with the previous two, impact communication, etc. So these are some ideas. This is kind of where we're going in Spain, in Europe, and with that, I leave the floor open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll ask if there are